Okay, so let's get right into it. In early March, this amazing group of women educators all got together for a 3-day legislative seminar. But here's the thing, their work started way before they even packed their bags for Washington. They were on Zoom calls, getting trained up in how to communicate effectively, learning how to write powerful testimony, and getting a real sense of what to expect on Capitol Hill. This wasn't just another conference. It was more like a boot camp for advocacy.
So, who are we talking about here? This is the DKG US Forum. And after all those weeks of getting ready, their mission for these 3 days was crystal clear. It was all about advocating for the future of public education, moving from just understanding the issues to actually walking the halls of Congress and making sure their voices were heard.
All right, first things first. Before you can argue for something, you have to know exactly what you're talking about. So day one was all about getting a really clear-eyed view of the challenges ahead. And let me tell you, the stakes could not have been higher. The big topic on the table was a proposal to completely defund and dismantle the U.S. Department of Education. Now, this isn't just about shuffling boxes on an organizational chart. We're talking about a massive, fundamental shift in how education is handled in the United States, basically moving almost all the control back to the states.
So, how do you make a big policy proposal feel real? You look at the numbers. Mark Lieberman from Education Week presented this data, and it's pretty stark. I mean, look at this. The Office for Civil Rights cut by more than half. The Institute of Education Sciences, which is where all the data comes from, gone. Completely eliminated. Federal student aid nearly cut in half. These aren't just abstract figures. They represent a huge loss of federal support and oversight. And this graphic really drives home what those cuts would actually mean in the real world. You're talking about wiping away civil rights protections for millions of students. You're talking about cutting off a lifeline for kids with learning differences or from low-income families. And you're shutting down the engine for the kind of national research that helps schools everywhere get better. It's a direct hit on the most vulnerable students. And here, right here, is the heart of why they're fighting so hard. This is from their own resolution. For these educators, this isn't just some policy debate. It's about protecting the very foundation of our democracy. Their argument is pretty simple. When 90% of all students in the country are in public schools, if you weaken that system, you're weakening the whole nation.
But it wasn't just about the budget. Day one tackled a whole range of complex issues. They jumped right into the intense debate over school choice, especially the Educational Choice for Children Act. They also looked at the tricky world of AI in the classroom, the risks and the rewards. And on top of all that, the critical fight to protect voting rights. It was a packed day. Okay, so after getting a firm grasp on all the issues, the seminar kind of shifted gears. It was time to go from the what to the how. It was no longer just about learning the problems. It was about strategizing how to actually take action. So on day two, they brought in an expert, K-12 Education Legislation Liaison R.J. Martin, who basically gave a masterclass in how to be an effective advocate. His big message was that you don't have to agree with the people on the other side, but you absolutely have to understand where they're coming from if you want them to listen to you. And Martin gave them this incredible toolkit of really powerful non-confrontational questions. I mean, this is brilliant, right? Instead of starting a fight, questions like these open up a conversation. They make the other side explain their policy in detail, and that can expose weaknesses. It turns a potential argument into a real negotiation. This is what strategic communication looks like. And now for the main event. After 2 full days of intense prep work, it was finally time to put all that training into practice. It was time to take their message from the conference room straight into the corridors of power on Capitol Hill. This is really where the rubber meets the road. These members, now loaded up with hard data, powerful stories, and a clear game plan, went and met with congressmen, senators, and their staff to make their case face-to-face. And they didn't show up empty-handed. They brought letters, like this one, that lay out a really clear, evidence-based argument. It shows exactly how taking away federal support would hurt that 90% of students in public schools, and especially how it would harm kids with disabilities or from low-income families. It's a tangible, powerful tool for their advocacy. Look, a single day on Capitol Hill can be a big deal, but it's rarely enough to get the job done. The final day of the seminar was all about the most important lesson of all. Advocacy is not a sprint. It is absolutely a marathon. Day 3 was all about endurance. They used the long battle for educator retirement security as a perfect case study. Specifically, they talked about the fight to repeal something called the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset. or WEP and GPO. These are rules that can seriously cut the Social Security benefits that teachers and other public servants have earned.
This timeline for just one bill, H.R. 82, shows you exactly what that grind looks like. I mean, it's a real roller coaster. You see some progress, and then bam, a procedural move stalls everything. You finally get it reported out of committee, which is a huge step, but then it just never gets a full vote. This is the reality of trying to make change happen in Washington.
So how in the world do you fight that kind of inertia? Well, you build a bigger team. A much bigger team. This graphic just perfectly illustrates the power of a coalition. To try and get that retirement bill moving again, advocates have joined forces with everyone from the Fraternal Order of Police to the National Association of Letter Carriers. When your one voice becomes a giant chorus, it's a whole lot harder for people to ignore you. A presenter named Susan Dixon pretty much boiled it all down to these 4 pillars. Legislative success isn't about one viral tweet or one big protest. It's about showing up year after year. It's about building trust and relationships over time and just having a consistent, relentless message. That is how you create real, lasting change. And so the seminar didn't really end. It just transitioned into a plan to keep the momentum going. Because the real work happens back home, right? It's sharing this information in state newsletters, it's organizing letter writing campaigns, and it's even creating new things like virtual chapters to get more and more educators involved. The fight just continues. These educators left Washington ready for that long journey. They understood that protecting public education takes more than just passion. It takes persistence, it takes strategy, and it takes a powerful collective voice. And it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What's the first step you can take on your own road to advocacy?